darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
And hello, welcome to the Morningscape podcast. I am Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell to cover a Tuesday NHL DFS slate. DJ, how you holding up, buddy?
Uh, the D stands for depression these days here outside of, in Western New York or really anywhere a Sabres fan could be. Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect the playoffs, but I expected to enjoy hockey still. And Jack Eichel's injuries are just, well, not just injuries, I'd say. His ankles really don't like him. He will once again miss out on probably a ton of bonuses from his individual play, but just really breaking the heart of all Sabres fans. Although in reality, like it's not an injury that should affect him long term. I know it's a second one, which is kind of weird, but high ankle sprains are supposed to be something that fully recovers in a sense. So hopefully this just leads us to Rasmus Dahlin, and yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah, no, it's luckily it's not the same ankle as last season's, because maybe that could be like a thing that reoccurs, but it's a different foot, so it just sucks. Like he's so much fun to watch. And obviously from a daily fantasy standpoint, he's pretty much dragged the Sabres to daily fantasy relevancy. So it's a shame for everyone, I think, but us in particular as Sabres fans who didn't really have much hope otherwise this year. But all right, with that brief aside into the
I
show.
have at least 10 more minutes of conversation about Jack Eichel that I'd love to get off my chest.
Yeah, I'm gonna table that for maybe another time, DJ.
Okay.
So yeah, as I alluded to, this is a 12-game daily fantasy NHL slate on Tuesday. Always some nice contests on these Tuesdays, Thursdays. So let's go right into it. We're looking at 12 games. Calgary at Boston leads us off, followed by Tampa Bay at Buffalo, Columbus at the Islanders, New Jersey at Philadelphia, Ottawa at Pittsburgh, LA at Carolina, Anaheim at Detroit, St. Louis at Nashville, the Rangers at Minnesota, Washington at Winnipeg, Chicago at Vegas. Patty Kane takes Vegas, all right, and Arizona at San Jose. So, I mean, anything you want to talk about before we just go game by game, kind of the standard game by game breakdown?
I don't think there's anything that pressing. Was there any other news? I feel like we kind of both mutually decided that there was nothing. Wait, Scheifele returned. I don't think we mentioned that on the podcast.
I think he came back Friday, so yeah, that would.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned it on the podcast. So other than that, I don't think there's anything like groundbreaking. I mean, you mentioned Chicago, who is right now down 2-0 against Arizona in the second period, and it sounds like they've played just horrific. So, okay, but other than that, we can just kind of jump into Calgary, Boston. I mean, I don't have much to say. I didn't play all weekend. It was alumni weekend at St. Bonaventure. The Bonnies put up 98 on Richmond, which I know everyone was following closely, including myself. So I kind of took the weekend off. I had about 10 people staying at my house. It became a hostel. I really didn't have time. I had 0 seconds to myself. So if you think I had time to do any research, you're crazy. So yeah, kind of getting back into it. I also couldn't play Monday because I ended up having to cook for homeless people. So okay, we can get into this late.
Yeah, so DJ's really got that karma built up in his favor.
I definitely did. I mean, yes, I do.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, there's really not much here to speak of. Brad Marchand obviously returned from his suspension last week, and everything's pretty much status quo over there in Boston. And this game certainly does not give me much by way of inspiration. I think if I had to pick a side here, it would be on the Boston side. But I'm not overly strong on these guys. Their current prices are, they're among the elite of the slate. And when you've got the entire league in action, I'm not sure if you can rationally go Brad Marchand over someone like Ovechkin or Kucherov. I mean, Kucherov against the Sabres just seems like a slam dunk here, even on a back-to-back. And the guy who I've like all season for Boston and Torrey Krug, yes, he's heated right back up, 10 points in his last game and on a 3-game point streak now. However, he is 5,600, which, isn't necessarily a great value. on defense. So really don't know where I would go here. Do you have any thoughts on Boston or maybe the Calgary side?
I mean, yeah, as far as Boston, it's again kind of like in my daily fantasy, everything that I use, it definitely always shows me that like outside of Boston one, there's really not anything that really is driving me to take them, I guess is what I'd say. So I know there can be times where it can be kind of like I mean, Spooner's on that first power play again. I don't know, like he's just not that good. Um, he only got 12 total minutes, and that includes power play time last game. So he's kind of out of the question. I know Zdeno Chara has been someone that has done well lately. His shot metrics aren't atrocious, but at 4,200, I think you could do a ton better. There's somewhat of a floor on him, but I'm not that interested, so I'm good on the Boston side. Calgary, I don't know. I really don't like targeting Boston. I don't hate the idea of trying to look at Calgary too, but I don't think I'll have it myself. I kind of feel like I'll stay away from this game.
Yeah, so
So,
let's take a stroll down Narrative Street to the Dougie Hamilton revenge game. And if you want a little bit of additional, contextual reasons to play Dougie Hamilton, last game it seems as Calgary has dove all in to a first power play of Gaudreau, Monahan, Giordano, Kachuk, and then Dougie Hamilton with them. And if you don't think that's good news for Dougie Hamilton, well, you are just wrong because he is, obviously benefits from playing on that first power play. His price has reached, that mid-tier of defensemen where it's tough to pick between him and guys like Gostisbehere and I mentioned Krug and Pietrangelo and Letang. Everyone's up here, so I certainly don't expect Dougie Hamilton to be like a top math player or anything. But I think given that context and given the narrative, I mean, Dougie Hamilton certainly is worth a play here and has some pretty big upside for a defenseman. 11 shots over the last 2 games.
11 shots on goal, right?
Right.
That's
yeah.
what you mean. Okay, I was making sure.
Correct.
No.
Granted that it was the Islanders and Rangers he did that against. I think that's the one place in Calgary I would look. So anything else before Tampa, Buffalo?
Nope.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good. I was just kind of looking at Dougie Hamilton compared to the kind of the field, and I would say he definitely ranks pretty high as far as a guy that like shot metrics. So like, yeah, I definitely like that idea. He's comparable. Like he has 29 shot attempts over his past 5 games, which would put him on par with like Getzlaf, Parise, John Carlson of Washington, and a little bit more than McDavid. So, yes.
Okay. Tampa Bay at Buffalo. Let's play this game.
Do I play the song again too?
I mean, you certainly don't have to.
Okay.
We can touch on what this does to the Sabres in just a second, but I think the obvious target here would be the Lightning. They're kind of doing something a little bit different with their lines right now. It's been the case for over the past weekend, and it was the case on Monday night that Tampa Bay rolled out a first line of Killorn, Point, Kucherov, followed up by Yanni Gourde, Steven Stamkos, and Tyler Johnson. Killorn is especially of interest to me because of 1, that first line role, and 2, his power play 1 role for the Lightning. I believe he has goals in 3 of his last 4 games now, and 5 points in in his last 4 games. So that's pretty good. He's a decent rate shooter. He's nothing special, but I think for 4,600, he's probably going to end up where Nemestikov was in the mid 5s, given his first power play role. And I think that just makes sense to kind of jump on if you're looking for some Tampa Bay exposure in your cash games. Other than that, I mean, you can obviously play Kucherov. I love Victor Hedman in this spot. Like, there's really not many ways you can go wrong on the Tampa side, so I'll let you kind of isolate your top way to get Tampa Bay exposure.
Killorn is, I think, the best way to do it for the best price. Like I just feel like he's gonna. I mean, I think people are gonna pay 5-6 for Yanni Gourde, and I think that's kind of crazy. When I think you get like better exposure through Killorn. I think Killorn's better than Gourde. I don't mind going Killorn and Kucherov. Although, I mean, Tampa Bay is on a back-to-back, so I would definitely double-check the lines. Have you looked at what they did tonight?
Yeah, that's what they did tonight.
They did it again tonight. I just wanted to double-check. Is
Yep.
that what you said? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't really have time to watch because grad school. But
Yeah,
yeah.
So the risk there is that they did lose, and John Cooper being John Cooper, Stamkos and Kucherov were paired for some of the night, but in general, they stuck with those lines as I outlined them. So I wouldn't
Okay.
expect them to change. And I think Killorn, regardless, will be like a really good value given the first power play, and he should be somewhere in that top 6. So
Yeah.
'cause
I
he's
also
hot.
really do like Victor Hedman a lot as a DFS player, but it's definitely a guy that I think you're going to want to stack with, as he's the second most expensive defenseman on the night. And Brent Burns and him are going to be like very, very, very difficult to get together without really taking some price cuts and some cheap stacks. So, yeah, I don't know about that, but that's kind of the main ways I go about it with those two guys.
Yeah, all right. So I mean, Tampa top 6, they're immensely stackable. I don't think I would play someone like Sergachev. He wasn't. So his minutes have been down pretty substantially. He did reclaim that power play 2 role from Strawman that he didn't have over the weekend on Monday. However, when it came down to crunch time, Victor Hedman was on the ice on the 6-on-5. DJ, do you want to take a guess who the second defenseman was in the 6-on-5 as Tampa is desperately trying to tie the game against Toronto? Just of their 5 defensemen, not Victor Hedman.
Who would I think it should be, or who do I think John Cooper put on the ice?
Well, I think we should agree it is Sergachev, correct?
Yes, that would
be
the
fifth forward.
Guy. Well, yeah, you either put Sergachev or I don't know if you really want to
play the point, but
yeah, that would probably be the move there. Who was on the ice? So you had Killorn, Point, Kucherov. Did not have Stamkos.
No. The four big guys: Kucherov, Killorn, Point, Stamkos are on the ice, I believe.
Okay.
Maybe Nemestikov for Killorn. I didn't quite notice that, but
so then you have Hedman. You either throw Tyler Johnson or Nemestikov or Sergachev, but they probably did Strawman, right?
They did not.
Dan Girardi?
Dan Girardi was on the ice.
God, no.
I love your reaction there. So yeah, that's good times. I just wanted to throw that out there because I just wanted to use it as a kind of highlight that Sergachev is just not trustable, at this current juncture. Like, I certainly wouldn't play him, and I think that there's a lot of reason to be scared off there. On the Buffalo side, losing Eichel does really obviously it sucks. But I think the one spot where I would be, interested in following up on is jumping on Evander Kane while he's 5,200.
With go this way too. Good. I'm glad you went here.
Yeah, I do think Tampa's really good. I don't think they're leaky defensively at all. They might allow a lot of shots, but if you look at their heat maps, on Hockey Viz, they allow nothing from in tight. They are really good defensively. However, where Evander Kane thrives is taking shots from the outside. So he's taken the role on the first power play that Eichel vacated. He's basically playing number 2 alongside Ryan O'Reilly. And then O'Reilly and Kane are playing a boatload of minutes with whoever else winger is ready to go. And 5,200 for a guy with a top 10 shot rate in the NHL in a matchup on a team on a back-to-back that allows shots from the outside the way Tampa does. I think this is a classic. Kane can get you to 7 shots, and you don't even need a point from him to worry about value. So I really like that play at 5,200. Do you have any thoughts on that? And does anyone else on Buffalo even remotely interest you?
Here's the thing: is that I think you found a team that has a very nice situation for guys like Ryan O'Reilly and Patrick Kane, oh my God, and Evander Kane to get absolutely a ton of minutes together, full exposure, all that good stuff. Potentially Reinhart actually comes in for Pominville there. I don't know if that'll happen because, boy, everyone outside of those 3 players on offense is looking pretty not good. But what I'm trying to say here is I don't think Buffalo has the upside to get you more than 2 goals. And I know I might sound like, I'm just a Sabres fan that's so upset. But I really don't think that they are going to score many 3-goal games from here on out. So, you're really you're betting on O'Reilly and Kane to just get everything together, which is possible. But yeah, that's the only thing I would even consider. It'll be a bit contrarian, and you can really hope that they can hook up for 3 goals because they do have. But last game they combined, just O'Reilly and Kane had 49 minutes combined of ice time.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And then like I mean, not 100% correlation, but like very, very close to being as like obviously sometimes line changes happen at unoptimal times or whatever. But yeah, it's huge. So I mean, it's considered. I'm probably not going to do it.
Okay. Well, I want to kind of make a nice little segue into the Islanders game. You mentioned the Sabres do not score goals. That is true. It was borne out. I saw on Friday night after that just insane Islanders game. I don't know if you saw the synopsis of it, but essentially the Islanders came back from 3 goals down with a 5-minute major penalty, late in the third period.
My buddy is a huge Islanders fan. He told me the entire story. Okay. So yeah, I heard it. But you go on.
And they scored 4 goals on the ensuing 5-on-4 major penalty, and then blew the 1-goal lead with 30 seconds to go in the game. So they went to overtime. But essentially, what happened is Barzal had another 5-point game. I saw a stat that Matthew Barzal has as many 5-point games as the Buffalo Sabres have 5-goal games on the entire season. And if that isn't indicative of the Sabres' miserable season, I don't know what is. So
you're saying it's Robin Lehner's fault.
that is what I'm saying.
That so was for me, back to that because it definitely is. Okay, yes. Go on now.
But for me, it's a Vander Kane bust. I am not even considering anybody else. They could put Jesus Christ himself on the right wing next to Kane and O'Reilly, and I would find a reason to fade it. So let's go to Columbus at the Islanders. Clearly the Islanders are a team we like to look to for their up pace, a lot of goals against sort of style. We kind of jumped into the Cam Atkinson while he's cheap and kind of been rewarded for that. I mean, he has points in 5 of his last 7 games. He's shooting the puck a ton. Does 5,900 strike you as a fair price in this one?
Yeah, it's fine. It's about what I would hope to get him at, I guess, at this point in the season. I think anywhere, I think he was above 6. I mean, obviously, it's almost just a marketing tactic. Since it's 5.9, it feels so much cheaper than 6K, but it isn't. I think he's stackable. I think he'll be deep. That Columbus stack will be pretty popular. I mean, I know him and Panarin have looked good for a while together, but it's still right there, and I think that's something I'd have exposure to again. I know it burned me last time, but him and Panarin are really, really good together, I think. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people will, if anything, go with the one-off of Atkinson over Panarin based off recency bias of performance. But yeah, that's where I'd start with this game. I feel like talking about the Islanders is just useless. It's Tavares, Bailey, Lee again. It's Bolivier, Barzal, Everly, and you're not going to play anyone else. Unless if you really like Ryan Pulock, but he's not in the first power play for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, just the reason I do like Pulock a little bit is because with other injuries, I mean, he's playing 20 plus minutes a night here. I don't think Columbus is a matchup where I would play him on a 12-game slate, but I certainly think that if you're looking at, smaller slates or anything like that, his floor and his upside for 4,300 are much higher than they were when he was playing 14 to 15 minutes a night. So that's kind of my main reasoning behind that one. All right, all right. I kind of wanted to touch on the Werenski versus Jones thing. It's kind of reached peak craziness. Zach Werenski is sub 5,000, while Seth Jones is 6,200. I mean, look, it's Seth Jones is playing on the first power play. Werenski is not, but is this is this going to last long? Like, I just do not see these two being so wildly, vastly different daily fantasy players as to warrant such a huge price disparity. Like, do you think there's any rationale between or behind going with Ferensky over Jones in like a Columbus stack here, given that they do play together at 5-on-5?
Yeah, no, I really don't think so at all. I mean, if you look at their last game, they won 6-1 over New Jersey. They really spread out the ice time on defense, but I don't think that would at all be the case in this one. I think the Islanders will definitely hold it close. It's definitely a game worth considering a full game stack of, and I really think that if it's a track meet, that'd be the right way to put that,
Yeah.
right? Track meet, then you gotta have Werenski and Jones out there for a ton of minutes. So yeah, I like Werenski a lot. I think he's a really, really good daily fantasy defenseman, and so is Seth Jones. But I mean, it's getting a little bit carried away with the pricing of Seth Jones. I don't think he's going to make value on that price. So I do agree a lot with Werenski. I think Werenski and Pulock actually could be a decent like pairing if you wanted to game stack this game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I subscribe to either of them here. I just kind of want to bring it up because I noticed how wildly different their prices were. If you recall last year, I was on the bandwagon of Werenski is not good for daily fantasy, and he just proved me wrong like 1,000 times over. So this year, seeing it really it makes me question, if what we saw last year was just kind of like a mirage or what. But I see no reason for like overall panic. It's more of like a little note that I'm making at this point. So I didn't want to make any rash judgments. I just wanted to raise that point. All right. Anything else here, or should we move on?
Yeah. No, I don't think there's anything pressing in this game. No. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, Islanders were back to 6 defensemen. Was that what they had? Did they have 7 before? Nah, right.
I don't believe
They might have
so.
been one of the teams.
Or
okay.
When they played Ottawa, maybe? Or
maybe.
Was it a different team?
It doesn't matter. I don't know why I was like I had a note of that, so I just want to make sure. Okay, so why don't we move on to New Jersey at Philadelphia? A game that I'm somewhat interested in. Where are you starting with this one?
I mean, if you want me to make another segue, it was not the Islanders when they played Ottawa who played 11-7. It was the New Jersey Devils in Ottawa last week who did that.
That could be what I'm thinking of. Okay, yeah. Go on now.
But that wasn't the case over the weekend. They went back to these normal 6, so that kind of takes a little bit of shine off of the Halls, Palmieri's. But I mean, I think the name that we are just continuing to have to take notice of is Pavel Zacha. He is just playing a lot of minutes for this team now. He is in a secure top 6 role. He is on the first power play. I just think you have to kind of take note of him. So I don't love that he got separated from both Palmieri, who he's been playing with at 5-on-5, and Taylor Hall. However, he has been centering them, so I would stay tuned to Morning Skate to see if like they make that a line. I would assume it's Hischier, Hall, Palmieri. But even if it's not, even if that's not the case, I think Zacha for 3.5 makes a ton of sense given his awesome offensive skills, which I feel like we were talking about even last year and literally never even bubbled to the surface. His shot rate has been terrible. But for some reason, as of late, he's had, he has multiple shots in each of his last 7, except for besides one game, which was that 6-1 drubbing at the hands of Columbus. So I think against Philadelphia, I think that makes a lot of sense. Any interest in Taylor Hall, who is, he's been incredible. Are you paying that price though on this slate?
Oh boy, it's gonna be really, really hard. I mean, I think again, if you go with Hall, I feel like you're probably gonna have to stack him because like as a standalone entity, I think you could do better with other guys as far as like the spot they're in, etc. So, I don't think I'll have him. I mean, yeah, I really doubt it. But I don't hate. I think it's a fine play. Like it's just not a great play for the price. But him and Palmieri as a stack is something that is very interesting to me if they're going to get all that correlation because they're both pretty good at hockey and like good DFS players. But outside of them and Zacha, Is there anyone? I mean, Will Butcher has 3,300, and he had a very like big minutes game and kind of been trending up towards more minutes, although his shot numbers haven't been there.
Yeah,
So, is there any interest in him?
he is just not he's not great.
Is he just like I just feel like he's the most random player. Like,
I mean, not really. He's just kind of. I mean, I'm not going to say he's nearly as impactful at 5-on-5 as like Anton Strawman is, but like, you look at him and you're like, oh, he could be good. He could be fun. And then he goes out there and even when he plays 18, 19 minutes, he's like invisible. Like you see him and you're like, oh my God, he has the puck. He has the puck. Oh my God, he still has the puck. Like, he dishes it, but he just doesn't shoot. Um, he's not he's not getting any assist luck at this point. So I think it makes somewhat if you're just onslaughting like that power play stack of Zaka, Palmieri, Hall. If they're gonna get you into GPP winning contention, I feel like Butcher could pick up an assist or two and be a part of that. But by no means is it a guarantee. So
no. Yeah, he really is like he needs to have assists to get value. I agree with that. Okay, so why don't we move over to Philadelphia here? Their last game, they somehow, I mean, miracles happen every day, I guess, beat Vegas in Vegas without a single power play, I may add. Even though Vegas loves taking delay game penalties, which is weird. But it was all Giroux, Konechny, and Couturier. They dominated. They had combined for 3 goals of the 4. We're on the ice for 3 goals of the 4, I should say. So are you interested in that line against New Jersey, or maybe the Voracek Patrick Simmons line against New Jersey that might get overlooked?
Candidly, I'm not that interested in any of them. Like,
Sure.
I was about that Nolan Patrick love, but I think on the other side of this game, Zaka for 3,500 just makes a little bit more sense given the minutes and first power play role that he's been receiving. Konechny, Voracek, Giroux, they're all probably at their ceilings in terms of price. Couturier is 7,000. Like, it's like they're all good players. Don't get me wrong. Like, but it just doesn't. It doesn't really sit well with me when we have like bona fide DFS goats like Tarasenko at 6,800. I certainly don't think that that's a very wise decision to be playing Flyers in any sense on this slate outside of Gostisbehere, who the sim loves his blocks, shots, points have all been like really, really strong as of late, and the minutes have been there too. So that's something you should be considering. But even he is at one of the pinnacles, I think, of his price at 5,500. So just a lot of things to keep in mind, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I'll just say one kind of DFS thing that I would say is that like you look at Gostisbehere's game logs and you'll notice he kind of did put up a dud against Vegas. But do you think? I mean, obviously, I was thinking about this, and this kind of sounds really obvious that like if a player is like the players are kind of game script dependent, right? Like, is that kind of an obvious thing to say? Like, maybe not every single player, but the majority of players are game script dependent in NHL.
Yeah, I mean,
is that a fair point?
I don't think power plays hurt the cause.
Yeah, because I mean that's what plagued Gostisbehere in the last game. I mean, they had no power play time, so it's like if you see that he had a bad game and you don't check on like HockeyViz or something what happened, then you just take it at face value. So like understand how game scripts impact these players. Is that a good point to make, or is that kind of obvious?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a little bit more like useful looking at raw just time on ice totals. You see Giroux played 13 minutes and you go like, oh, that's not, but that's just a factor of they're going to use other guys to close out games rather than using Giroux in offensively slanted situations. It's not something I'm worried about by any means. And yeah, I do kind of agree with you when you see a guy who's had a tough situation like, Gostisbehere, like the Flyers team did last game, no power plays. Maybe that's probably a part of the recency bias that people, if he's coming off of his 7.5, 8.5, even dialing it back a little bit, 9.5, 6.5, all of those games right there in his game log instead of that one staring you in the face. Maybe he's a bit more popular. I don't know. But I think that it is worth taking into account that yes, the game script can hamper some daily fantasy outputs from time to time.
Okay, that we can move on to the next game. I just wanted to make that point, and at first I thought it was going to sound kind of obvious and dumb, but I think I kind of saved it there. Okay, so why don't we go to Pittsburgh? Wait, is it Pittsburgh at Ottawa? Ottawa, Pittsburgh. So the 10-day script has Pittsburgh as the best goals for projections. I agree with it.
I mean, they're pretty good.
Yeah, they're really good at hockey, and Ottawa's not as good. And as a Sabres fan, I won't say like really bad because I know what really bad looks like. So we have the Hagelin, Malkin, Kessel line, the Simone, Crosby, Rust line, and then Kessel. No, not Kessel. Who Hornqvist still didn't play in their last game.
Hornqvist is week to week, so
And,
he's
yes, he
almost
is
certainly done.
Still out. Yes. No, he is definitely not going to play this game. I think it's like 2 games from now might be when he might return.
I thought he was like a couple. Like I'm pretty sure he's week to week, meaning
Yeah, but
like,
it's already been a week, almost. I think a week would be Wednesday.
Okay, I think it's
So
I think it's a
not
bit more long term than that, but
You know what? I have faith in him. I think he's going to, talk to Tom Brady. Tom Brady will give him some horse blood to inject, and he'll be good to go. So, anyways,
we had to mention Jack Eichel dying and then Tom Brady in the same podcast, DJ.
Tom Brady didn't win the Super Bowl. So, I mean, honestly, like the Patriots, kind of overrated. Anyways, can we get back? Tom Brady and the crocodile. I really want to know what the crocodile was about. Did anyone figure that out? Okay, that's
I don't believe so.
Very, very, very
obscure
reference that if you didn't listen to Puck Soup, you probably wouldn't get. So, okay, Ottawa, Pittsburgh. The DFS importance is, I think, slanted heavily on the Pittsburgh side. Yep. Are you stacking Pittsburgh? Are you playing all of the Pittsburgh, or just most or some of the Pittsburgh?
So what looks like it's happening now. With no Hornqvist, I was immediately like, oh my god, like Jake Guentzel must play. Guentzel's stepped in on the first power play for Pittsburgh, which is obviously very, very, very good. However, for I guess obvious reasons, Guentzel's not that great defensively. He hasn't really been that productive at 5-on-5, especially when he's not been playing with Sidney Crosby. But Guentzel is on the 4th line. And last game against the Blues didn't even get a look on the top unit with like basically Simone, Crosby, Rust. He never subbed in on either of those 2 wings. So that right there was like my initial lean going in. Like I want to grab Crosby and Guentzel and hope that they play together at 5-on-5 a little bit, and then have that obvious power play correlation. However, I don't think that's a very smart play anymore, given the lack of 5-on-5 minutes from Guentzel. I think if you're going to stack this game, you go Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, you do something like that, and just, you got to hope they have a huge, massive, productive game. So,
yeah, I do think there's enough value on this slate with good spots with like Killorn, who we've already mentioned, and possibly we'll get to some others that you could probably get that in. But how about if we were just going to take a 2-man stack? Would you go with Malkin, Kessel, or Crosby, Malkin, or like what do you think would be the way you'd want to do it?
It's tough for me to not play Crosby in one of these stacks, but I think realistically speaking that Malkin, Kessel, they have such direct correlations with each other that I think that would be where I went here. Letang's interesting. He's really been stepping up as of late, playing a ton of minutes. He and Schultz always play that game where they rotate off of the first unit power play. But as of late, Letang's kind of been there. I don't love 5,800 as a price for him. However, I do think he's worth a look in GPPs only.
Okay, that's definitely fair. Is there anyone else from this game you wanted to mention? I think we covered the main Pittsburgh kind of stuff. I mean, would you consider Rust or Simone? Just before we move on, I guess.
I really don't want to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't really think Simone's that is going to be a DFS relevant player. Like if you take him solo, I think that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
he has such plus potential.
What? Oh my God, Russ has 9 points in his last 10 games. Like,
I know.
I don't like 4,500 though. Like, he's earned a power play 2 role, which is, it's good for him for sure. Um, so that is one of those things where, like, yes, kind of riding the hot hand is okay in hockey because coaches also ride the hot hand. Um, but I would say there's a 0.0001% chance that Russ plays on the first power play or anything like that. But I would expect his 5-on-5 role to remain pretty constant. But it's not something that I'm, putting my hard-earned dollars on at work to, back Brian Rust at 4,500 in any matchup. So
All right. I think that's fair. So do you want to move on from the game or just mention Ottawa as a team in the NHL that is doing 11 forwards and 7 defensemen? And other than that,
so let's see. I just want to check. Yeah, Derek Brassard at 4,000 is he just came back from injury on Saturday and went right back in and played 19 minutes. For 4,000, I think at center, that's a really, really strong value. I don't want to stack it. I don't even want to look at it really, but I think, just clicking the name Derek Brassard, who's a reasonably good shot generator and plays a pretty big role for this Ottawa team for 4,000 only, is just a pretty serious mispricing that I will be taking advantage of. Maybe not my only lineup, but if I'm playing multiple lineups, I think that's a really nice way to kind of punt center while getting a really good player.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I like about Brassard is like that line is actually pretty solid. I mean, Stone is back, and Stone's like he's really good at hockey. So I think that if Brassard is going to prove to be the shot generator, like Stone is a very, very, very gifted player that's very underrated in the NHL. I mean, I'm not probably going to stack because like there's no way I'm playing Stone at that price. I mean, yeah, and
for sure.
So, but yeah, I'm just saying like that could be. I like that one off. That's a good idea. If you're hurting for salary, but why don't we get to LA at Carolina? Are you ready?
Yeah, and it's over. Is there anything here that you are even like considering? I just this game has vomit fest written all over it, in my opinion.
Let's just look. Is there anything I'm considering? I mean, no.
Toffoli's been like so okay. Toffoli's been terrible. Don't get me wrong. But when you look at his iCourse per 60 over the past, I think 2 months, when I was looking at it, he's like right up there, top 5 in the NHL. I am not playing it by any means. I don't think you should either. But if you're looking at just straight up shot attempts, Tyler Toffoli for 5.1 gets you, reasonably good for that. He's a reasonably good projection for that price. But I just think this matchup is one I'm staying far, 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 far away from.
Yeah, I will not have a player in this game. I mean, I don't even imagine myself having Toffoli because like Evander Kane's right there, and I think he's a better option on this slate. So why don't we just skip it? Honestly, we're probably taking way too long already. So
yeah, that's fine.
I cried about Eichel for just a touch too long. But Anaheim at Detroit. Are you considering jumping on either team? I mean, obviously it would be Anaheim, not Detroit, but still.
Yeah, I mean, hi Anaheim. It's me, your good friend. Just hoping you're, well on your way to making the playoffs. I'll talk to you in April. But yeah, I mean, until then, I think that it's more than reasonable to stack these guys up. Corey Perry, I believe we called him out last week when he was 4,400 in a fantastic matchup against Buffalo. DraftKings listens to the podcast. Next slate, he was 5,000. Over the weekend, he was 5,600. He's now 5,800. No thanks. That's just kind of silly.
I think price drop over a week.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you always like to say, it's a morning skate bump.
The morning skate bump. It couldn't have just been his skill.
I mean, he might have. Do you think he might have speared one of the DraftKings operators into pricing him up a little bit?
I think that was part of it. Yes.
Maybe some slew foots or whatever.
One slew foot don't want to do it for you.
Yeah, I don't hate Getzlaf and Raquel. I mean, I think their prices are very fair. I like the matchup against Detroit. I don't think they're anything special by any means. I'm not saying they're locks, but I love those two. They're fantastic. And I wish Ryan Kessler would earn that power play one role back from Adam Henrique. I think we had our fun with Henrique when he was, high 3s, mid 4s, and it's kind of tapered off now. because Kessler's playing a huge 5-on-5 role for the Ducks, and he's really cheap on DraftKings. Like he's 4,200, but I'm not. I don't. I think that you're better off playing a guy like Brassard if you're trying to kind of get like a punt center in that is going to play a lot and it's just like generally a name who's good at hockey. Ryan Kessler certainly fits that bill, but not one of my preferred guys here.
Okay. Is there any interest in like Anaheim power play 2 kind of stack before? I don't know. I'm not overall. I'm really not that interested in this game. I'd say like I would consider a couple pieces of Anaheim, but
I think that's kind of pushing it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm fine with that take. I just wanted to know what your take was.
Yeah. No. I mean, just not really. Like Kessler, Silfverberg are like solid. And I think the price does make sense, but on a 12-game slate, I just think it's so rare that a power play 2 is going to get you the sort of upside you need to win GPPs that, considering it for anything but a one-off, and even then, there's other values that are basically power play 1. I think that's a little bit risky.
Okay. Anything on the Detroit side? I mean, there's some cheapness here, but is there any value that you really, really like? Because I kind of doubt you're going to play anyone that's too pricey, right?
Yeah, no. It's like, I don't know. I want to love Anthony Mantha, but every time I look at him, I go, oh, man, he's probably like, under-owned and good value. Like, nah, he's up at, mid-5s. Like, no thanks. So...
Yeah. I mean, I don't really feel like Detroit. I never really like I look at the shot kind of numbers over their past so long that you graciously send me. And I think does Doug make it?
I mean, the script is what Doug made for me, I think last October, and I just run it every day because the NHL, the one good thing they do is keep a static site that lets you scrape this information off of it. So that's really all I do. It's just 10 days. So.
No one on Detroit that looks very high up. Their number one guy is in like 60th place of anyone in the NHL.
That's
pretty
bad.
It's pretty bad. Out of Nick Jensen, I think is who it is too. They're like highest shot guy.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to play Nick Jensen, so I don't even see him.
Let's move on.
Oh, okay, that's good. Just wanted to I wanted to look. I wanted to know. And I mean, Nick Jensen's floor numbers have actually been like decent.
Just stop.
Dude, he has no goals in the year. This could be the time. I mean, yeah, I think okay, let's go.
You're cut off. All right, St. Louis at Nashville. This game also is similarly uninspiring. Not for the reason, I think LA, Carolina, both teams are just not good offensively. I think both Nashville and St. Louis are both pretty good offensively, but they're even better defensively, each of them. So I think unless you're looking to like Tarasenko or Philip Forsberg, I just don't think there's much upside here by way of in terms of the overall matchup. If I had to lean in any direction, it's the Tarasenko direction, clearly. I mean, he is really priced down at 6,800. He's normally, a 7.4, 7.5 guy. But you're paying for a road matchup against Nashville, so that might be kind of the discount that you're getting on Tarasenko right there, in addition to the fact that he's been a bit cold as of late. So anything here that you are liking, maybe it's done, but he's, his minutes have been fine, I guess, for 3,400 power play 1, but certainly not trustworthy.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I had a point to make, and then I actually got proven wrong by looking at something. Well, when was last time Nashville played? I might not
they
played
Montreal on Saturday. Did you see the big hubbub about that?
Maybe not. What was it?
Well, it was they played in Montreal on Saturday. Subban visited with Roman Josi, I think it was, the children's hospital that he is raising $10 million for. That pledge, that big pledge that made all the news. I'm sure you are well aware of that.
I know. I mean, what a jerk.
Post game,
Okay, go on.
post game, Nashville ended up winning. Brandon Gallagher got interviewed, and he basically said like, "Oh, why are you even asking about Subban? He sucked or whatever." Meanwhile, during the game, Gallagher tried to run Subban and missed him, cut his face wide open on his visor. It's kind of hilarious because PK Subban is the man. And so Gallagher was just all pissy about it. It was like, "Oh, why are you asking me about him? Like, oh, he just came in here and made it all about himself," which literally is like the furthest thing from what PK Subban does. But he embraces the fact that he is a superstar in the NHL. Anyways, on Twitter, some former first round pick, like someone named Tubert or something, said, "Hey," tagging Brendan Gallagher in it, "don't let Monday get you down." And the point being, no one likes Mondays, but it's a very racially loaded term, and yeah, it's really stupid. So that was the big drama there.
A lot of that I did not know that at all.
Yeah, just try not to be racist on Twitter, people.
It's not that hard.
I mean, it's kind of easy to be racist on Twitter too, if you look at the world. But not here's not the place for such a discussion, especially.
Fair.
Overall, given hockey's many issues, I don't think that is helping anything.
No. Yeah. So, I mean, is it? Thank you for adding a lot of DFS relevancy to the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a really interesting story.
Like that is an interesting story. I'm glad you brought it to my attention. I honestly did not even have any idea that happened, so I'm going to look into that. And that's really what we do here. We give you all the information, whether you want to hear it or not.
That is so true.
To listen to it or not, we had to bring it up. So. Back to this game. Yeah, I don't even know. I have no idea where to go from that. The segue led me nowhere. Was Fiala, Forsberg, and Janmark? That was not a real line, was it? Because it looks like Nashville's line where their lines were a mess last game.
Yikes! I
don't know what happened there. So I would say that they're definitely a candidate. Check the morning skate. Check what their lines are because they look like they really, really messed around with them a lot.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Plays were Turris, Sissons, Fiala, Ellis, Yossi.
That's power play 2.
And then but like, why is Bonino and Yonkrock with? I don't see Johansson on either power play unit.
Like, yeah, that's weird. It's very weird.
So things are weird here.
Things are always weird in Nashville, though. To be honest, like
I am confused. I'm looking at this game on HockeyViz. Like I really suggest looking at it. It is a spider web on offense, and then a power play that I read the names. I'm like, that can't be what they did. Like, where's Arvidsson? Wait, where's Arvidsson? He didn't play any power play time. That can't be right. He did. I don't get this. Arvidsson and Johansson aren't on either power play unit. Something is up.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Something happened that isn't right. So please look into that. But what about the St. Louis side? I mean, we have Tarasenko pretty cheap. Is that really it here? Like,
yeah, I think so. St. Louis has been pretty bad as of late. So, yeah, like I think they could flip their lines yet again. Tarasenko's had, I think, different line mates in like every game for the past few games, and they got kind of embarrassed by Pittsburgh on national TV on Sunday afternoon. I had one more thing to bring up. In case you were curious, Mike Fisher practiced for the first time today on Monday. Well, on Monday with the Nashville Predators. He will not play, so we're not locking in Mike Fisher just yet, people.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
In case you are unaware.
There was almost a massive crash in my room with something on my desk, and I caught it in midair and had to move it, but I still heard you.
Nice. All right, moving on. We are just...
Yeah, we really went off the rails there. I completely lost every train of thought I had, and then something
all of those
fell.
trains, yes, all of those trains have collided. They are off the rails. Like,
we will talk way more about that game in the group meeting. You should join that if you want to talk about that game.
Perfect. Rangers at Minnesota. Rangers are in a very tough spot right now. I'm sure you saw the late last week news that they are trying to blow it all up. McDonough is mysteriously hurt. I don't know if that's legit or if they're just trying to let him stay healthy for a trade. It's kind of suspicious, I think. Would not be surprised if something went down like tomorrow to trade any of these people. So
I
there's
mean,
always that lingering cloud. Buchnevich still has concussion-like symptoms, will not play. I don't think there's anybody else. Oh, Chris Kreider's obviously still hurt. Shattenkirk's still hurt. So not a ton. I don't think there'll be any newcomers to the lineup, and there certainly could be people exiting in the Rangers. So just stay away from them completely.
yes, I would stay away from him completely. They might just leave McDonough in Minnesota as a part of the deal. So I mean, the thing is that one's been rumored, and it almost just feels like it's only because McDonough's from Minnesota. But whatever. Uh, I think I would not mind actually stacking a bit against the Rangers. Like they're pretty bad defensively. Um, I'm still not completely over Parise, although I'm not sure. I don't know. He's been pretty good. I would consider him again. I'm not 100% in on that take, but I don't hate the take. I just really wish it was a bit more stackable. Like him and Coyle had a good game against Chicago, and they played power play time, so like that's something. But it's not my top take. It's a good cheaper stack, I'd say. Like if you really were like going with that pit stack we talked about, like that's a pretty good way to get a decent stack at cheap.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't hate that by any means.
and then
I don't think you're stacking the Granlund line just because they're all pretty darn expensive up there.
mhm,
Zucker, Granlund, like they're just kind of crazily priced. I don't know
pretty
if it's
much.
crazy, but it's not good. Um, Boomer,
Bruce,
do not play Mike Riley again. I don't know
yeah,
how you
bad.
lucked
Oh
out last
boy.
time. Um, but just
I mean, I feel like he just like had a board in front of him that had 2.8K players, and he just picked Mike
just
Riley.
threw a dart and he got a goal out of him.
And then Mike
So,
Riley did the same thing. He just threw it at net.
yep.
I didn't see the
Um,
goal. All right. So I think, is there anything on the Ranger side though?
no, no.
Perfect. Okay. Whew.
Washington at Winnipeg. Um, as you mentioned, Shifley is back. So let's see, just pulling up to confirm how that affected things.
Is Winnipeg good?
Winnipeg is pretty well.
Did you read the article though? Wasn't that what it was
Oh,
called?
the Patrick Laney one. Yes,
The thing that he
yes.
didn't write but wrote.
Yes, Winnipeg is good.
Like, wait, did you read it though? That was my
Yes, I
question.
read it. No, I read it.
Okay,
That
I'm
was
making sure.
fascinating.
I'm making sure. I was like, okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, he and Nick Ellers play Call of Duty a lot. Lion and Nick Ellers should download Fortnite because Fortnite's pretty damn fun. And then we could talk some DFS strategy because why are Lion and Ellers not on the same power play? The world may never know.
Well, they're getting good Wi-Fi, so I think they could actually do it. Full circle joke. Back to this. So Washington's power play one dominated Detroit last game for 2 goals. And
Yeah.
it's exactly the unit you'd expect, I'd say, right? Ovechkin, Carlson.
Oh, Washington. Sorry, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking Winnipeg. I'm like, Winnipeg did not play. Okay, go
Speaking,
ahead.
they scored 2 goals. Okay. Ovechkin, Carlson, Backstrom, Kuznetsov, Oshie. Ovechkin, Backstrom were back together. Kuznetsov, Oshie, Vrana. So I mean, I think there's a decent reason to consider. I mean, honestly, I do kind of shy away from Winnipeg, especially like especially when they're back in their lineup. Like I think
Yeah,
they're pretty good.
I think they're really I think they're really damn good.
So yeah, no, I guess what I'm trying to say here is like you're gonna want to go with that power play one if you went Washington, but I don't think I'd suggest going with Washington, and therefore,
Yeah.
my point has been invalidated. So anything
Yeah, I
on
mean,
the Winnipeg
Ovechkin
side?
Ovechkin is a one-off is always in play because
Yeah.
Ovi has slate breaking ability on any day. But I think given that I think Winnipeg is so good defensively, which they are. I mean, you look at the numbers; they're not this high-flying team like they were last year. They've definitely toned it down. They're playing outstanding defense with pretty good offense, but they're definitely doing it more of the Nashville St. Louis way than what Winnipeg's done in the past. So
Mhm.
on the Winnipeg side, how the Shifley return has impacted things. As you may suspect, Roslovic is off that first power play. First power play consists of Shifley, Connor, Line Wheeler, Bufflin. First line for them has actually been Shifley, Wheeler, and Matthew Perreault. I want to like that, but I also think that that's a little bit I think that's a little bit sketchy at this point because Perot is already. I typed in sketchy and
Five,
not Perot.
five.
But Perot's already priced up to 5.5, so it's not like you're jumping on him before the value kind of hits and helps him. So in general, I'm not interested in a whole lot in this game, I think is my overall takeaway from this
Yes.
one.
No, I agree. It's not my favorite game to stack. I think there's a couple one-off plays, as you mentioned. I mean, like I was really hoping Kyle Connor would just be like 3K again, but like he's not. So he's
Yeah.
not in play at 4.9. I'm sorry.
Am
Like
I wrong to like Bufflin though? Like
No, you're not wrong. Oh,
I-
good. Who I feel like I'm the Bufflin truther in on this podcast. So
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
about it.
it's so tough because I just have these like great memories of what it must have been
Yeah.
2 years ago now, and he was like Brent Burns. He and Brent Burns were like the
They were
thing.
both Brent Burnsing.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
Bufflin kind of just stopped doing that. So 5.3 though I
Mm-hmm.
think is a great way to get some exposure to a matchup that I think is pretty sneaky good for these
Yeah,
guys.
we've talked before about like I don't mind targeting Washington. Like that's never been the issue with it. It's more of like what is Winnipeg right now as they get healthy again? Like are they
Yeah.
like a team that they're going to play that style? I mean, I think they've already proven. Paul Maurice has proven that like they're going to give their top guys the big minutes. So they don't really roll four lines as in a traditional sense, as in
No.
like their line four gets no minutes.
Yeah.
So like you can feel good about what you're getting in a stack. It is expensive. Another guy that got pretty big minutes, surprisingly, was Joel Armia with 20. But that was kind of due with penalty kill time. I don't know how in play he is, but they really gave the top three lines good time. So I don't hate the idea. Yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of made my point, and then I kind of talked about Joel Armia for a second, which I don't know. I should have done that. I noticed that like I for a second there I thought it was on power play one, but I knew that wasn't true.
It was the fact
had some
that
close
Connor Perot flipped like for one shift or something.
Oh, okay, that must have been it. Okay, I'm
So-
kind of it looks confusing, but now I kind of see what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Chicago at Vegas. Chicago is currently getting their they are getting their I don't know how to put this in a non-explicit way, but they are losing 4-1 to
Oh.
Arizona. It's
I mean,
terrible.
they're basically getting how many goals Duncan Keith has scored this season by the Arizona Coyotes.
But they've scored one goal.
No, I'm just saying like that's what it feels.
Well, you see, Duncan Keith has yet to score a goal on the
But
season.
he shoots the puck. Like he's been actually like producing pretty well as far as like a shot floor at force. Like I actually don't even hate him as a play. Although like on a back to back against Vegas, I'm not like in love with the play. I just feel like his price is really, really bottoming out, as it probably should.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
think
mean,
that's
It's
pretty
not
well
it's not
deserved.
unwarranted. His price is going down. I'm just saying, like, could like we see like him come back and be okay?
I don't think we'll see this team come back and be anywhere close to respectable. So
Ooh. Wait a minute.
that's-
Did Keith not get power play time?
he's not been. He's been
He's
losing
so
it
much.
to Jordan.
Osprey.
Yeah, he's been
Oh my
losing
God.
it.
Boy,
Yeah, it's crazy there.
falling apart.
They've got 3 of the top 100 players of all time, and one of them doesn't even play power play, and the other 2 play on different power play units. Imagine how good they would be if they put them together. It'd be like the Globetrotters,
They'd
right?
be the best team of all time. Clearly, I mean they're better than Malkin.
The best power play of all time.
Best
For
power play
sure.
of all time. Easily. That's. I didn't think that was a question worth asking.
All right,
so this
sarcasm
game-
aside,
sarcasm aside.
you have no
Oh.
interest in Chicago, correct?
No. I mean,
Okay.
Oscar Lee is like the only player I'm gonna double check on, but I don't even think I'll play.
All right. So we can talk a little bit about Vegas. You mentioned that they just lost to the Flyers.
Flyers.
That's certainly news. I don't suspect that will lead to any wide sweeping changes on the Vegas lines. So, we are getting what we normally get out of Vegas, where we have Marchessault with Carlson and Smith, and then Neil, Hall, Perron. We've got the Perron line with Shea Theodore. Actually, Marchessault jumped up to that unit kind of surprisingly, but I believe that was just due to the small sample of their power play last game. It could have just been they got a power play at a bad time, and because Carlson wasn't on the power play, and even if we hate William Carlson because he's shooting an ungodly percentage, he's going to be on that first power play because he's been really good. So I would not look too hard at their special teams from last game. As we mentioned, Philly as well kind of had their stats a bit weirded out by that game. So in general, you know what you're getting into. I like Marchessault. I like Shea Theodore. I like Colin Miller. Anyone else is just kind of, I probably like them, but nothing too strong for me.
It's just amazing how many players on Vegas are priced above 6K. I mean, there's just no value on this team. Like,
Right.
You need them to smash. Like, you need to take a stack and to smash. I mean, Perron 6K, Riley Smith 6'1", James Neal 6'4", Marchessault 7'2". I mean, I don't like Howell is 6'1". We all know William Carlson is just always like 6'6". That's where he lives now. So you have absolutely no value.
So
there's really no one that's a good punt on this team. Like Alex Tuck is there, but like he doesn't get the minutes. So then you just look at the defenseman and you say, can I do it? And you mentioned the two, and yeah, it's tough. Like trade Theodore or bust, pretty much, and on to Brent Burns.
Yes. Let's go on to Brent Burns. I'm just trying to picture what I would say to you if you came up to me in October and said, "Hey, in February they're going to be 6 forwards on this Vegas Knights roster that are 6,000 or better." I'm like, "What? They traded for Ovechkin? How did they swing that?"
And then you'd say, "Well, I mean, who is a point per game player?" And I'd be like, "Well, I mean, obviously David Perron is a point per game." And then while you're laughing, I'm going to be like, okay, so William Carlson is just under a point per game, but 29 goals. And then, I mean, you're just...
You'd be like, Carlson is second in goals. You'd be like, wow, Erik Karlsson's having a great year. No? Oh, man. Did Ovi get hurt? Is he the new... No? Like, okay, whatever. Let's just move on because...
And Marcus was above point a game. Just throw that out there. But David Perron being a point per game player, 49 points, 49 games.
Amazing.
Blows my mind.
Okay. All right. Arizona at San Jose. Brent Burns against an Arizona team on a road. Well, technically it's a road back-to-back because they are at home on Monday and taking the road on Tuesday. I wouldn't, I think we're looking at, I don't think we're going to see Brent Burns play 30 minutes. I don't think that's a hot take, even though he just did against Anaheim and again against Colorado in 2 of the past 4 games. But I do think 25, 26 is right up there in terms of like what you should expect out of him. And Brent Burns is Brent Burns. So against Arizona, he's likely going to be as chalky as any player in this league could be, maybe 20-ish% if I had to, gun to head make a guess right now. But I think that still leaves a ton of room to differentiate your lineup and get the bona fide best player on the slate at the best price, locked into your lineup. Would you? I mean, I know you agree with me, but do you have anything else to add
on the game in general or the Brent Burns take?
Either.
I think there's. I'm just gonna agree with your Brent Burns take. I'm not really gonna add anything. Like, I think if you're playing a number of GPP lineups, you should include him, but at the same time, like, understand leverage and understand that. I mean, if he doesn't go off, you're really sinking your ship. So,
I mean, are you though?
Well, he has a floor that's good enough, but like, I don't know. I don't know what you mean.
I mean, his floor is
1 point as far as like an assist or a goal. Like, you're screwed.
I mean, again, are you though? I mean, we've seen from Brent Burns his ability to take literally double-digit shot attempts, and he can get 6 or 7 of them on net. He loves blocking shots too. He's like what 1.5 per game on the season. So I think there's a ton of upside even if he doesn't get any points, which is why he's such a reliable spend from a daily fantasy perspective, because he doesn't need the multi-point games like a Taylor Hall does, or to some extent like a Kessel, like someone like that. Kucherov obviously, but they need multi-point games to get you like extremely good value. But Brent Burns literally does not need that for 7,300.
I agree. I'm just more saying in GPP, if you take a defenseman that doesn't get a couple of assists and a bunch of shots, I don't know. I don't really even know how to describe it. I think Brent Burns is a guy that is worth maybe stacking with this power play one if you do it right. I don't know if he's as soloable in this matchup. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just not. I mean, I'm not really looking at anything that's too concrete. Like he's always the best player on the slate as far as what iCourse per 60 probably, and his shot metrics have been definitely there. But
Yeah, I mean, like raw shot attempts, he's gonna lead the slate in given the minutes he plays, and I just don't see a reason to fade him.
I wouldn't. I never said to fade him though. I
don't think you can. I don't think you can make any game theory reason to play him in 50% of your lineups. Like I don't see that being a reasonable argument in my opinion.
Okay, wait. Are you? Never mind. I'm just gonna let you have this one. I don't know.
I'm saying is he is an absolute lock against Arizona, who takes the road to play a back-to-back. That's all I'm saying.
But you're not going to be able to afford all that Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay, or even a good portion of it, if you have to play Brent Burns. So, are you willing to sacrifice either of those two as a game stack, or as a team stack?
I'm definitely willing to fade the Pittsburgh. The Gensel news really kind of like dampens that to me. And Tampa, I don't love fading it, but I think, Killorn, that gives you some decent value to, play him and Kucherov, and you still have a good team around it. So
I think it depends on how you want to build your lineup, but I don't think he's like, you have to add him in absolutely first, like on other slates. There's 12 games here. I mean, there's a lot of other.
It's also the literal worst team in the league on a back-to-back.
That is true. Home. That's why I'm saying I think you could stack it. Like, I think you go Hurdle, Couture, and Burns.
Okay.
Like I like that idea a lot.
Okay.
Like, that's a really cool stack that I would play. But I don't know if if I'm playing Burns and like that team doesn't eviscerate Arizona with their top guys and power play, then I don't know. I mean then like they could have 2 early or 3 early and like one of them is the second tier scoring. Then later in the game, they're not really gunning for it as much. I mean, Arizona's probably not going to put up more than 1 or 2. They're not very good. Obviously, that could happen because bounces or whatever, but I don't know. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make here, and it's not a great point. I'm just saying my opinion.
Okay. I mean, to me, that just sounds, I don't want to play. I don't want to play scared of the variance in hockey because the variance is insane, and I'm going to let other people make what I think are the wrong decisions by not playing Brent Burns. And if it doesn't work, I will move on to the next slate and just kind of, regroup and go through the same process as I do every day.
Play one lineup, and you want to get I think one lineup you probably should try to get Burns in. I think if you have multiple lineups, like it's not a bad idea to fade this San Jose team, being as you mentioned, will be the most highly he probably will be the highest owned player on the slate. Outside of goalies, obviously. Well, probably even including goalies. Could be the highest owned.
Yeah.
Probably. I think there's a reason to believe.
Well, let's move on from that. Let's move on from that discussion. That wraps up the 12 games. Let's do some quick line stacks and a couple guaranteed goals and get on out of here because this is another doozy of a podcast.
Yeah, we definitely went way over. I mean, I really, really do like that Couture, Hurdle, Burn stack. Like it's not completely, like it's pretty bad for the bank account, but it's definitely an upper tier stack that I'm considering. Yeah, like that's one that I do really like as a stack. I know, like I just spent a little while saying like Burns isn't like an absolute lock, but that stack is really good, I think.
Okay, I will go with Kucherov, Hedman, and Killorn.
Yeah, that seemed like an obvious one. I gotta go with a cheaper one now. Oh, I remember the Minnesota one I mentioned. I think
Parise.
Yeah, Coyle, Parise, and then you'd probably want to go Suter with them. Or Spurgeon, but
it's just it's a Russian roulette between him and Spurgeon because both are pretty outstanding.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, trying to go a bit cheaper myself. You know what? Let's do Panarin, Atkinson, and then Pierre-Luc Dubois has been centering them. Dubois is, I think, 4.6. We didn't discuss him much, but I think he's an okay play to go with that stack. Or you could go Panarin, Atkinson, and Jones to get like a power play stack. I would not touch Wenberg. Like Wenberg doesn't shoot, and I think that the Atkinson and Panarin are the two forwards I really want exposure to on Columbus in a matchup against the Islanders.
Yeah, I really like that stack too. I completely forgot that how much I liked that stack when I was doing them because it's definitely one I was considering.
All right, let's go to guarantee 2 goals. As normal, we try and keep it right around the $12,000 mark so that we're not just taking Kucherov Ovechkin. Next question. Make us think a little bit.
Yeah, that would be. Those are my guys though, so you kind of took them before I could even say them. So it's kind of annoying.
That is true.
And I really want to take a Pittsburgh guy here, but it's really hard because the only guys I want are expensive.
Yeah.
Do you have anyone off the top of your head?
Well, I mean, Jack Eichel is so cheap of it.
Yeah, 6K. I think Jack Eichel probably.
But no, realistically, I want to get that Evander Kane action. I feel really good about his price in the role that he's playing currently, regardless of matchup or team surrounding him. I just like to play the percentages in hockey, and if he takes 7 shots on goal, I'm banking on one of those going in, more often than anyone else in the slate taking 3 shots on goal and scoring a goal. Like that's just kind of that's how math works, and I think Kane's a fantastic math play, even if he's in a terrible matchup. So I'll go Evander Kane and then leave myself about mid-6s for my second play.
I was gonna go Alex Killorn. I know you mentioned him in your stack, but I really do like him tomorrow. I'm probably gonna have him. Maybe not like the best guaranteed goal, but I think for his price and his shot volume and power play usage, like it's really, really, really should be considered for cash games. I'm a shot measure because of late, maybe his last 5, which is a bit recency bias, but when you put him in that kind of role, like you can't really look completely into his past. So that leaves me with what? Same pretty much as you. Like
you have a bit more to spend. Yeah. Just a little bit more. All right. I am going to go with one Mr. Oh, this is so tough. Mr. Ryan Getzlaf. I was between Ricky Rax and Getzlaf. But I think Getzlaf gets on the board. I like him, I love him, Raquel, as a stack. So I'm gonna go with Ryan Getzlaf at 6,600 at center.
All right. Boy. Oh man, I don't know. I guess I'll just go with Tarasenko. Like he has been firing the puck from everywhere. So I'll go Tarasenko Killorn, which is that's good, right? Yeah, no, that I can't believe that works because Tarasenko's so cheap. But yeah, it does work.
Yeah, no, that's really doable. So, all right, that will just about do it. I know we mentioned it throughout the show. Be sure to check out the GroupMe, DM our Twitter at Morningscape Pod if you want in on that.
And DJ, we have to announce the winner. We have to announce the winner of the Listener League. Which so Jimmy Burke ended up winning the Listener League via a head-to-head contest. So Jimmy Burke will be joining the podcast very soon. We're not entirely positive on the date, so we will just kind of be a surprise again. Congratulations to him, and February is already off and running, and we will be keeping track of that as the month progresses. I don't think anyone has more than 1 or 2 already in February, so it's not too late to join. If you'd like to be on the podcast, which of course you do, we are up to what? I think about 25 people get invited each to the Listener League, and it normally gets to at least 15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
So
it's fun.
Yeah.
All right, so last thing, I know there's a big slate on Thursday, but given that it is Valentine's Day, it remains to be seen whether I will be around for a podcast or not. So just don't come crying to me if you don't wake up on Thursday with a podcast. Like, look,
I will.
Some of us have things to do on Wednesday night, so we'll try to make time, but we'll see how that goes. All right, so with that said, hopefully talk to you guys again on Thursday. DJ, anything else you want to say before we close out?
Go Rasmus Dahlin.
Yes, falling for Dolan. All right, from Doug, from DJ, and from myself, have a good slate, everybody, and we will see ya.